Our subject today is the effect of the slave trade on Bolton. It's part of the Revealing Histories project, which brings together a number of museums across Greater Manchester and art galleries on the bicentenary of the abolition of the slave trade. Slavery as a fact in history is a difficult fact, because although there are documentations, obviously plantation records, ships, logs and things like that, there are very few individual spoken accounts that have been written down. So the number of people stolen from Africa can only be guesstimated, estimated, and in a sense it's a figure that we carry inside us as people of African descent. The roles played between the many countries involved in the slave trade. It wasn't just England. I always tell people, children, that, you know, the French, the Spanish, the Dutch, all slave trade, we just did it better. We conquered the world better as British people, and it is we. This is not your history as white people, English people. It is our history because we live here. What often is quite disregarded, I suppose, is the role that Africans themselves played in the abolition of the slave trade and the abolition of slavery. Because, you know, if you're being bullied in school and you keep quiet, nobody knows you're being bullied, so nobody can come to your aid. Well, the Africans were not quiet. We know that Igbo people walked on water to escape the slave ships. We know there were rebellions, which is why we got the Maroons in Jamaica. We know that people ran, people endured, and people made known what was happening on the plantations. We were the first people to start the road to freedom. And in starting that journey to freedom, we got support and we got followers on all levels, from even some plantation owners, some slave traders who changed their mind and realised what an inhuman trade they were in, ordinary people, people that worked in factories, people who worked in hardship, all came together, and that is the power of unity. So when this discussion is based on the effects of slave trade on Bolton, it's not here to slap Bolton's history and say, aren't you bad because your big houses and your factories and your museums were built in the back of slave trade. It's to acknowledge that we have a past that is united in a bad way. And what we want to do is debate that so we can move forward in a good way. Okay? I want to introduce the actors. Can you just... Oh, you've got no microphone. Oh, you have got a microphone. Go. And maybe we should thank them again for the performance as well.
Hi, I'm Andrew Ashmore, and we've been working on a lot of projects connected to the bicentenary of the abolition of the slave trade this year, and performed in about 9 different museums doing very different plays. This one was specifically for Bolton, given the mule that's in the collection and the importance of the history of the cotton industry here.
My name's Paul Etuka, and I've been working with Andrew for, I think, getting on for 8 to 9 months now, maybe just over. As Andrew said, we've been working together to create performances that are relevant for people today. Because it's almost pointless putting on a performance if there is no relevance to people's lives as they lead them today. So we've touched on quite a few things, including, of course, the African involvement in abolition, also the African involvement in the trade of slaves. We've been quite clear in the way that we've put together these performances so that people understand exactly who was responsible for what. And we're very proud of what we've done here today. Thank you.
Can you actually just pass the mic, just make an introduction of who you are first, please? Men talk a lot. So.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm not an actor or a poet. My name is Daniel Smith, and I'm the museum's curator of local history. And I have a cold and a slightly sore throat, so I'm not going to be quite as wordy maybe as everyone else, but that's who I am. I've been involved in the Revealing Histories project since 2006, and you'll see some Revealing Histories displays around the museum, and I've been involved in getting them prepared. Thanks.
My name is Abby Ido. I'm a performance artist and a writer, originally from Nigeria, and I've been living in Bolton for about 4 years.
My name is Washington Alcott. I don't have a title, but I have been researching the connection of the northwest of England and the links to slavery for the last 3 or so years. And I have unearthed a wealth of material about Bolton, Manchester, Whitehaven, Liverpool, you name it. And this afternoon I'm hoping to share some of that with you and to take your questions.
I'm going to stand up because it's easier. You've spent more than an hour now sat passively, in a way, listening to performances, the poetry, the play, etc. So I'm going to be daredevil and say, does anybody have any comment and response to either the poetry or the performance that they'd like to share?
I was going to say, I think it's a very difficult subject to kind of get to grips with because it's so big, you know, and it infuses so many things. I haven't really got anything very useful to say, apart from I've just been so struck by the performances, you know, by the poets and the actors. And I think it's just such a great way to get the subject across, you know, because, I mean, that's my response really. Better than a lecture or reading a book or anything. To do it in this way has been fantastic, and thank you very much. The quality has been very high. I'm very impressed. Thank you. Thanks.
Anybody else? A comment or a question they want to throw to the actors or the poets or the historian? Washington.
One to the performers. As you've gone through the process with the museum's projects across Greater Manchester, how has it changed you as people inside about your views of the whole subject area?
You know, it's amazing how a subject like slavery affects you and the way you feel about yourself, and the way you feel about where you came from and your origins, and what you contributed to, what you are contributing and have contributed to this country. I think for me personally, it's had a profound effect on the way that I feel about myself. One of the things we've done, and we've researched this very carefully, is to be very balanced in the way that we present these productions, so that people understand why the subject of slavery, because people feel disconnected with the slave trade. It happened so many centuries ago. What on earth has the slave trade got to do with me? If you go and ask the man on the street what the slave trade is about, that's the answer he'll give you. Happened so many years ago, what on earth has it got to do with me?
Can I throw the question? Does everybody feel the history's got anything to do with them?
I mean, we were talking about this in the car coming up, you know, what has it got to do with us today? I mean, it's when you buy very cheap clothes, I think, and when you see, you know, Primark or whatever selling 3 T-shirts for £5. I mean, that is not come by nothing. I mean, that's come on the back of somebody else. So I think it's very relevant today, isn't it?
Absolutely. I think, you know, hopefully one of the messages that comes across
Where's Poshina? Good actor.
In the pieces that we've done is just really about how ordinary people got involved as well. You know, in Manchester, petitions were signed. Here, people supported the blockade. Ordinary people who you wouldn't think would, because it was, in a way, against their interests. And also how relevant it is to things that are going on today, like the issues about globalisation, global warming and so on. You know, people cared about something and made a difference, because in 1787, when the Committee for the Abolition of the Slave Trade was set up, they were regarded as eccentrics and cranks. You know, it was the strangest thing to challenge the status quo in that way, and they did. And they managed to get the abolition 20 years later, of the trade at least. And you know, so things could be done, and hopefully the message that, you know, that comes out of all the performances, that if you care about something, you can make a difference. And I mean, I've really taken that away.
When you're dealing with the question of what slavery's got to do with you in the present day, I think what we need to remember is important is that about 200 years ago, some people stood by and slavery happened under their very noses, and it took a while for people to realize that it was wrong. And in our present day, slavery is happening again. It's happening with women, it's happening with children, it's happening very close to us. And again, it's happening under our noses. And if we do not wake up to the fact that it's happening again, maybe another 200 years down the line, we'll be talking of a different kind of slavery. So we've got to be really alert and conscious of what is happening around us, learn from the mistakes from the past, and make sure they don't repeat themselves.